Lee Condell of Sunfast Racing, welcome to Hobart. How was it?
Very much. It's good to be here. We had an epic trip back in from Tasman, having parked for 6 or 7 hours yesterday afternoon. That was extremely frustrating. But once we got around Tasman, we had epic sailing. It was absolutely fantastic.
And you're saying this boat's really made for that stuff, isn't it? Good reaching stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We knew we had to try and make up time because we'd fallen back in the lull, because I think we were parked for probably longer than most of the other boats in our division, so we had to try and make up time. So we had nothing to lose. We just felt we've just got to push as hard as we possibly can. There was some pretty big gusts coming down off the cliffs, but the boats are pretty stable, so we just had to keep pushing and footing off every time we got belted, and no roundups. Very, very close a couple of times, but no, it was good.
And you were telling us a bit about some of your downwind work, falling off apartment high waves and going down those. Tell us a bit about some of that.
Well, bass straight on small boats in pressure is scary. There's no two words, no other way to say it. You can't try and steer out of a wave that's that steep. You just got to go with it. And you're dropping down the face because they're just so steep. So it's a bit hairy.
And you were also saying that there's a very good way of finding out how big the wave is coming up behind you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, what we realised, because we kept seeing this light from behind, and eventually we realised that every time a steep wave came up behind us, the stern light was reflecting back into the cockpit. It was like somebody was flashing a light going, "There's a big one coming."
Very good. And also you were saying that you obviously have to make that rather difficult calculus of which sails you bring with you, and you actually sacrificed the heavy air kite, and you ended up pole jib and actually going
all that Hensel, yeah,
and going as fast basically.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if there's 35 knots of wind, you don't need a whole lot of sail area, and these things accelerate very, very easily. So it's very easy to get them on a wave. So as long as the wave isn't too steep, they just career along. It's pretty awesome.
Must have been pretty exhausting for you, both sort of Lincoln and you, just sort of first couple of days there. How do you manage that process, energy saving as best you can?
I think everybody probably has different ways of dealing with it. What we've found is just taking the opportunity when you can to rest. And if it's busy and the conditions are difficult, then you just keep going. And we had very little sleep. I doubt if I had more than 3.5 hours in 3 days. But we're getting a lot of rest. So we are actually taking a break and lying down and getting rest, just not getting a lot of sleep.
Exactly, and that's often, I think, for the offshore thing, people don't realise the rest matters just as much as the sleep, really, in the end.
Absolutely, because you start making mistakes when you're overtired, so you have to manage that. That was our biggest concern coming into this race. Obviously, being longer than the lead-up races, was making sure that for the last 24 hours, we still had the energy. And I mean, Lincoln did a fantastic job. Awesome. We have made so many sail changes in the last 40 miles, and brilliant. Really good.
Tell us a bit about the boat, and it's obviously made for this sort of stuff, and it's really easy for the two-handing thing, really.
Yeah, it's a really interesting design because it's got a hull that's quite different to anything else that exists. It's got a double concave fore and aft, and the lower pressure that creates when you actually get beyond hull speed makes it jump beyond hull speed very, very easily. And of course that takes load off everything, but it means the boat can sit on higher speeds than you would ever expect a 33-footer to be able to do. So that's pretty special. Bow's obviously very full, so in bow straight waves there's lots of buoyancy to keep the bow up, which is really good. The downside is that in certain conditions upwind, there's a lot of slamming. The boat's still fast, but it's pretty physically hard. So second last night we were into how much wind do we have? 24, 26 knots of wind, upwind. And you're just hanging onto a stanchion with one hand and steering with the other.
And
so
how much do you resort to the autopilot? Presumably that's just for basic manoeuvres and things.
It just depends. We almost didn't use the autopilot.
Just the waves and things.
We just felt it was going to be faster in pretty much all the conditions we had. We've had other races in the lead-up where we used it quite a lot. But no, just these particular conditions just didn't suit it very much. So in certain manoeuvres, obviously, that's the primary use.
So as I understand it, you're second on IRC. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, we're delighted. Yeah, really happy. I came into this wanting a podium. I did this to honour my dad, who passed away last year, and I got emotional about it.
Yes, I'm sure, yeah.
But I really wanted to honour him, so I'm very happy.
Wonderful way of honouring him, and well done, and congrats to